Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novi-Williams, and this is the World Series Hangover sports business podcast, the Sporticast.
Novi. I mean, I got to tell you, hockey dad from Ontario. I offered him, I'll go up to Toronto with you. I can get 2 tickets to the game if you want to fly up. He did not take me up on the offer. So good in that he didn't see the heartache and wasn't there for it. Bad in that he missed one of the best games of all time.
If you're a Blue Jays fan, do you regret not going up, given what happened? Would you be like, oh, it was such a historic game anyway, I would have liked to be there? I wonder what you actually feel in that scenario.
Yeah, I didn't ask him afterwards, but I would think, you know what? You didn't need, if you win, you're really kicking yourself. They lost, you just don't even want to be there for the heartache. Yeah, I watched it on TV, whatever. I would think he's okay. I didn't check in with him yet. I wanted to give him a few days to recover because I know he really, really was into it. Our former colleague, I won't say who, but you know who he is, Canadian son, young son, loves baseball, much like him. And just, I messaged him right after the final out, like, poor kid's name. He said, you would not believe the tantrum that's happening right now.
Yeah,
I hope Watts doesn't behave that way.
Of course not. No, so there's great. The game was amazing. There were some high drama in the bottom of the ninth, the top of the 10th, the bottom of the 10th, the 11th, all that. There was also a moment where this could have ended in the most 2025 sports fashion of all time, with a review about a cleat and when it touched home plate and when it didn't. I think the thing that I found so compelling is that in between the amazing plays and the luck and all that, there was a moment where it looked like this could be the most deflating ending to a major sporting event possibly ever, if it had turned out that Will Smith's cleat did not get back down to home plate in time to stop the game-winning run in the bottom of the ninth.
See, now you think that would have been deflating. I think that would have been awesome. Can you imagine that umpire? Can you imagine that umpire having, after further review, and he should be, Wes McCauley? Does that name mean anything to you?
Yeah, the umpire, yeah.
No. Wes McCauley's an NHL referee.
Sorry.
And and he's known for his sort of bombastic calls. Like, he'll say, 2 minutes for fighting, stuff like that. Like, he'll really get into it. If he had this moment after further review, he would have silence for 10 seconds and say, we have an overturn. We have a run. The World Series is over. It would be, what a moment. Think about that. So you're going the wrong way on this. That would be an all-time sports moment. When have we ever had an official declaring who wins the championship like that? Oh my God, that would have been awesome.
So Major League Baseball goes from this high, this historic World Series and historic Game 7, immediately into total vibe shift now into labor fight. What is going to happen with the next collective bargaining agreement? And a question for you, Scott. In some ways, the Dodgers winning with a $330 million payroll and $1 billion in deferred compensation plays right into the ownership hands that there is a financial imbalance in this sport that is unfair and also not fun, and everyone would be better off if we had fixed costs and salary cap. On the other hand, we just had the most competitive, the closest, most exciting World Series in modern MLB times, maybe ever, however far you want to go back. I'm curious which of those two narratives you think wins out. The idea that this was a proof of concept for owners, or if this was a proof of concept for those who think the status quo is actually working okay.
Well, I got to see who's more upset, because, again, we've talked about it. There will be 2 fights ensuing leading into labor. Yep. There's owner versus owner. And you need to share more. We want more. We can't compete with those big bad Dodgers. The players love teams. The union loves all the free spending. They don't want any constraints. They don't want luxury taxes and aprons and things like that. They want free spending. They want more people to jump in. Keep in mind, you also had the Brewers. You had the Mariners. The Jays are spenders, by the way. That is a big revenue club, whether you know about Rogers Communications or not. Go read Kurt Badenhausen. He'll explain to you what kind of operation that is. The Yankees are the Yankees. We all know the Mets did not make it. But I think you're in for an owner versus owner here. I don't know how far people want to dig in and who wants to shut things down. And the problem being, I think, is the backdrop of all these melting RSNs. And you have some teams going to 0 on their local TV. That's unfathomable. If you're the Dodgers, that's the catalyst of everything you do, was the RSN that they were able to not have equity in and start when they got the team out of bankruptcy. So it's just, we got to figure out, baseball has to figure out that TV model.
And so we tried to get Stan Kasten to engage in this topic, obviously, last week when he was on the show, the president. And CEO
He's
of the
too smart for that,
and he obviously declined. But I'm curious, what ownership class pushes back against the idea of a salary cap? If you're a low revenue team, obviously your only chance of winning a Super World Series, if you're the Pirates or the Rays, is probably some kind of fixed cost situation. And if you're the Dodgers and you're the Mets, the valuation appreciation that you would capture basically the minute that the salary cap kicks in is so incredibly large. I kind of wonder if every owner, for various reasons, can see something in a fixed cost situation that makes them happy.
Well, yes, but there's too much risk then in the can we compete for a championship. If I'm the Dodgers, and I know because I spend wisely, it's not just, there are franchises that spend and don't win anything. I don't think
There's one in
that's
New
not
York.
the Dodgers right now. Yeah, well, maybe 2 in New York. But I'm trying to make nothing Buffalo. I was had to do my football thing. Like, nope. If I'm the Dodgers, I am getting significant in win-loss column, in championship column, significant ROI in my investment. Do you think that they are blinking an eyelash at Yamamoto's contract? Do you think they care about Ohtani's contract? Absolutely not. This is going to absolutely rocket fuel international business for the Dodgers. And the next Japanese players will want to go play in the Dodgers because they're seeing this trio play here now. Winning, it just fuels the entire business here. I have absolutely no doubt that the Dodgers would be, no, we don't want a cap, even though it would lead to significant appreciation of the franchise value. Like, we're okay on the merits just as we are right now. We're fine. We figured out how to build a better mousetrap, and we'll reap the revenue because of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we're going to see, and most people that follow baseball and baseball's labor more than us think that we are in for a knockdown, drag out fight here. That I know a number of people think that missing potential games is not just a possibility, but maybe even a likelihood at this point. But these are all labor fights are contentious in some degrees, but the degree at which owners seem to be pushing what would be a very radical change for the way players are compensated across the sport from now moving forward does, I think, kind of set the stage for this being a potentially ugly version of a major labor fight.
Well, let's go with the good news, though. Then Krupe wrote about this morning, that this was Fast Nationals on Game 7, so this is not the final number, which we'll probably have, when this comes out. But 26 million people watched Game 7, and the high was like 31 or something. We're close to that. We are talking NFL. These are National Football League numbers. This is not NBA. This is not, whatever else you want. This is NFL territory. That bodes very
team.
well.
Yeah.
That bodes very well for Major League Baseball and its teams as they are trying to figure out the media. The rules changes have worked very well. The technology has worked very well, and we're going to have sort of, ABS? What's it called? The robotic umpires, people like that. I'm telling you, as I have been saying for quite some time, Mr. Novi Williams, that young Master Soshnik and his pals are baseball fans. They may not be watching it in a way that you and I did. They may not care about Red Sox Yankees, but they do care about Ellie De La Cruz on a Tuesday night in New York. They do care about playing the video game. They do care about Vlad Guerrero. This is the things that is attracting their attention. They're buying jerseys. They're interacting with the game. My son, as you know, plays baseball in the spring. One of the few kids, that does multi-sport stuff still because he likes the game. There's a lot to build on here. How do you keep that momentum going? And if they shut down for a while, this is what I'll say also about him. He's not going to be the angry old man like me. I'm never watching this sport again. Blah, blah, blah. He'll be like, let me know when you're back. And he'll be right back on the Xbox, or probably playing on the Xbox anyway. And then saying, Dad, I need to get upgrade to MLB The Show 2026. Some players were traded and I don't want them on the wrong team. And I'll say reluctantly, all right, that's no fun. You don't want to play with the players on the wrong team. So there's a risk reward analysis here, as there always is when you go into these labor stoppages. I'm not sure how great a risk there is to damaging the business. Not ready to proclaim that being a high-risk situation yet.
I find myself right now in the same position I was at the beginning of the year. And I wrote a Club Sportico essay about this exact thing, about how torn I was about baseball. Because on one hand, I see everything that you just said, Scott. Young folks are re-engaging with the sport. A lot of the rule changes have been great. The last World Baseball Classic ended in the literal storybook version. This World Series ended in basically another kind of storybook version. There's so much momentum. And then we do MLB valuations every year. We had Kurt on the show pretty recently, and it's the only league that isn't seeing kind of meteoric rise in growth and valuation. And there have been very few control stakes and teams that have sold. The market seems kind of frozen, even on the LP stake side. It seems like all the rhetorical arguments make sense. And then when you dive into the numbers and deal flow and things like that, it doesn't actually seem like baseball is in a particularly healthy place. And trying to square those two things is confusing for me, and I don't know.
Well, we're
exactly,
looking at that, Eben,
and the
as you
labor
say.
situation will figure itself out in some ways, and maybe answer some of these questions.
And so will TV. Labor and media will figure itself out. Let me see what the landscape, the M&A landscape looks like. Let me see what happens if the Minnesota Twins were put on the market after the labor contract is signed, after we have some sort of clarity on what local media will be like for baseball. It's more important in baseball than any other sport. Doesn't rely like the NFL on the national. I mean, it's important, but local baseball revenue means a lot. Yep. So once those two things are figured out, and they will be figured out, then let me see what happens on the M&A side. Let me see what sort of action we see and volatility or movement on the valuation side.
So speaking of TV media changes that need to work themselves out, YouTube TV and Disney, Scott.
Love me a good carriage dispute.
Latest carriage fight. If you, like me, are a YouTube TV subscriber, you probably tried to watch college football on Saturday morning and realized that you couldn't. This is an interesting one. As ESPN starts to offer its own direct-to-consumer version of ESPN and ESPN2 and all those channels, I think there's some people out there that kind of view this as one of maybe a new age carriage fight where ESPN might be trying to push people back to its own direct services. Our colleague Jacob Feldman made the opposite argument, that this isn't really about that at all. It's just the classic, the cost of rights are going up.
Pay us
Somebody
more.
has to pay it. And
it ain't going to be us.
It's between the providers and the networks to figure out who it is. Where do you stand on this? Is this just more of the same? There's some new interesting wrinkle because this is Google and this isn't Charter, and Google's a many, many, many $billion over company. How do you feel about this versus other carriage fights recently?
I feel as if this is just the latest in what we've seen with YouTube. Of course, we should point out, owned by Google, so there's a pretty good market cap there. Yep. It's not just Disney networks. Before this, it was Paramount, which is now CBS. It was Fox. It was NBC Universal. Now they didn't go dark, but they came pretty close. So okay. What I see here is different avenues to broadcast, and I use that in the narrowest term, narrowcast to whatever fans you want. I saw Stephen A. I saw Kirk Herbstreit, all the ESPN personalities on all the social platforms telling viewers what is going on and the alternate ways in which they can enjoy the programming that they came to see. Sankey, the SEC commissioner. So Disney made College Game Day available on Twitter, on the mobile app without a cable subscription. So you really had easy ways. Once you knew where it was, you did have a pretty easy time of watching the game if you wanted to. So that's a little different here. Like that in the old days, in the Linsanity days, if you were a Time Warner cable subscriber, you didn't have MSG. It was just gone. There was no Gotham app. There was no way for me to see this, particularly on, if there was no authentication with a cable subscription. But there are ways around it now. So price is going up, like you said. If you want to show all these things, that you got to bid for these tier 1 properties, the price is going up. It's premium stuff. Pass it along to the consumer. It's that simple.
Yeah, I think the one thing that does make me feel like maybe this is different, and I guess we'll see, is the YouTube and Google piece, obviously, right? And I've been saying for a while now that at some point, it's probably not this year, but at some point in the midterm future, sports are going to realize that they sold all their rights to companies that are way bigger than their streaming aspirations, and as a result have a lot more leverage in negotiations.
Like you said, it's not the core business.
Exactly. And in some ways, when your carriage fight is with Charter's core business really is internet, right? It's not really cable anymore. So in some ways, we talked about this a year ago or 2 years ago during one of the big Charter ones, that Charter had a little bit of leverage because the cable wasn't the big business anymore. It was the internet that they were using to stream on the alternate services. But that goes to a million times over here with YouTube and with Google. So yeah, I am curious if ESPN sees a different kind of combatant here in YouTube, and that again, this is the financial imperative for having a streaming, a vibrant streaming service is not very large there for Google. And if Google were to decide the economics of this business don't work for us anymore and shut it down, there's no sweat off of Google's back to really do that. So I'm a little bit interested in that. And then this happens all the time, but it's interesting to see where the public nets out on this. And Awful Announcing did a poll on Twitter. And the majority, I think it was about 66-33, 2/3 of people blamed ESPN for this. And it's not hard to see why. I think it's easy for YouTube to say, we're sticking up for the consumer. They want to charge us more. We don't want you to pay more. So we're going to stick up. It's a little bit harder.
Yet the refunds never match.
It's harder for ESPN to make the argument that they're pro-consumer by trying to by forcing YouTube to try to pay more. So that one I think is interesting. And then one last thing that I think is worth noting here is that because YouTube TV is not the size of Charter's cable subscription, at least not yet, YouTube does pay a different carriage fee. And this surprised me, but they pay a different carriage fee than some of the bigger cable providers do pay for ESPN and ESPN2, et cetera, again, because they're coming with a smaller audience. So over time, that will flip. Obviously, I think if you were to fast forward 5 or 10 years, YouTube TV's, if it continues, YouTube TV's subscriber base is going to be way bigger than it is right now. I think you could make an argument that Charter's cable subscription base is going to be smaller than it is right now. So the leverage will shift over time as well as YouTube becomes bigger and therefore has more buying power in situations like this.
YouTube's going to want what's called MFN status, most favored nation status. You need that clause in the contract that says my pricing will be what the big boys have. That's what they're after. It just hit me though, Novi. First of all, your ring light looks very nice. It's really focused on your face. Yeah, for the first time, as I was walking in, our friend Matt Palacio handed me this square thing with a light here. This will be good social right here. I can shine it in your eyes. Like that's what he handed me. This thing looks like this.
God.
Yeah. So I'm like leaning it up against my laptop to try right there. Like I'm going to try. Ideally, better. If I had it mounted properly, would this be the best?
That looks way better.
That's better, right?
Yeah.
All I have to do is hold it out now. All right. So for the last minute before my arms give up, my shoulder, like surgically repaired shoulder, I can't keep the right shoulder up for a while. But it's become obvious that it's sports and sport business now is just nothing but disputes. I mean, you've got the Dallas Mavericks and the Dallas Stars yelling at each other because the Stars are looking at going to Frisco. You may know that's where the Cowboys have their big facility. So they are obviously going after each other. And man, I hope that we actually get some discovery here where all these sports executives have to be testifying under oath about the business of what they're doing. And that's where we get the good stuff. That's why the NFL does not like litigation. It's all about discovery. But hey, if we can get this, the Mavs are saying this is the problem of sharing a building, right? Yeah. That's what this is about. You kind of saw it with the Sixers and Comcast in Philadelphia. So they're going to go and co-own a building. Yeah, but I can't keep my arm up anymore. But this is the danger here. They co-operate it through a company. Apparently, the deal says that they both have to be headquartered in their facilities and their offices have to be in Dallas. And according to the Mavericks, the Stars are now in Frisco. And they have said they're looking at an arena in Plano. So I don't know where it's going, but this is not the first time we've seen a dispute among co-tenants, so to speak.
Yeah, and the Mavericks accused the Stars of holding the American Airlines Center, is the arena they co-share, holding it hostage by not authorizing investments and vetoing annual bonuses for some employees. And this is
if you know you're going to leave, why would you pay for stuff?
So one of the things that you mentioned Philadelphia there, the thing that got Philadelphia kind of over the finish line, because it was ugly for a time there between the ownership of the Flyers and then ownership of the 76ers. The thing that kind of brought them back together, from what I understand, was Adam Silver to a degree, but I'm sure Gary Bettman was involved too, saying, look, guys, like, figure this out. Like, this isn't having the two of you fighting, maybe building competing venues in town or on the outskirts of town. That doesn't help anybody here. And there was a little bit of a kumbaya moment negotiated over time between those two sides, and who knows what's going to end up happening here. But I do think it's fascinating, and it really highlights, this has probably been simmering under the surface for a very long time before the Stars decided, or both sides decided, you know what, it's time to go the legal route.
Well, also, let's not forget that the real estate was the reason the team was sold. Yep. That, Miriam Adelson and Patrick Dumont, they're looking at a casino / development with the building and all that. So if I could see the hockey team saying, maybe we're not going to be all that involved in that. Maybe we're on the outside looking in and we ought to do our own thing. By the way, I also encourage people to go look at the USA Today story from not long ago about the Dallas Stars and youth hockey and the ice rinks. I make no judgment. I don't know enough about it yet, but just go read that. Although the Dallas Stars, according to USA Today, they are really enjoying some pricing power with youth hockey around the Dallas area. So
I was about to wrap it up, Scott,
does impact me and my peeps.
We almost got an episode without a youth hockey conversation, but you snuck it in right at the buzzer.
Well, that's not a conversation. That's just a little. It's an interesting story that if people don't know about it.
On Twitter at Novi_Williams. The show is produced by Justin Green.
You didn't throw UFC match fixing. I thought you were going to talk to UFC.
We'll talk match fixing next week or later this week. Sebastian Milo, Matt Palacio, and Carol Winston would like you to know that you can follow the show at Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network. Scott is blinding us.